Hi, Jordan.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
You can kick out my recorded if you need to.
Yeah, it's all these recordings that I'm admitting. I don't know who. It's funny when they show up without people, but that's okay. All right, we'll just give it one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. Hopefully I won't be distracted by the little pings, but okay, well, let's just jump in. I'm Jordan Schramm, and thank you guys for being here today. We are going to talk about what referrals never made you figure out about consistent sales. So we're going to spend time talking about the next chapter of your business, about growing your business beyond referrals and what referrals may have you overlooking in your business. So I'll be upfront with you. I'm not going to pitch you today. I do have a giveaway at the end of this that we will talk about. And of course, if you want one-on-one marketing support, I do offer that, but that is not what today is about. I called this a workshop because we are actually going to do some real work on your business that you can leverage in your marketing today. So I want this to be laid back and conversational. I definitely don't want to be talking at you for an hour. This is the only slide I have. So please feel free, any questions, thoughts, put it in the chat and I will do my best to keep my eyes on that as well. But first, I want to start at the very beginning of why you started your business. Because most entrepreneurs that I talk to, they generally have the same underlying reason that they are drawn to the entrepreneurial world. They want freedom, whether that's time freedom or money freedom. They want that idea of control, right? They want to be able to decide how you spend your time, who you work with, and what your actual day-to-day looks like. So hopefully this is resonating with you. I would love to know why you started your business. If you want to drop it in the chat. And I think this idea of freedom just keeps coming up more and more for me because when you start building your business, you lean into a lot of word of mouth and referrals and people vouching for you. And it works in the beginning, right? Clients start coming in and it feels really good. And then you kind of hit a slow month, right? And suddenly you're refreshing your inbox and you're waiting for a Stripe notification and you're just hoping that someone reaches out to you for help. And so you do what makes sense, right? You do the most logical thing that you can think of when you're grasping at straws. You start leaning into marketing. You post more, you send another email, and you wonder if it's just the algorithm that hates you that day, or if your audience is too small, or if you're just not doing enough, right? And so even though you're doing more, you're following the marketing guru's advices, right? You're doing everything that you were told to do. Your efforts still aren't turning into sales. And you start feeling like things are out of your hands, right? You point at the algorithm, it's that fault, you mess something up, or you're just not doing enough. And you start getting that same familiar feeling that you were trying to get away from when you started your business, right? You have that idea of freedom and control taken away from you again. And it's what started your business in the first place. You were looking for that freedom and now you're back in this cycle of depending on other people or referrals to vouch for you. Here we go. And And so most of the clients that I talk to, they feel like this is a visibility problem, right? And like, if only you could get more eyeballs on your business, if only you could have more people know what you offer, everything would be better. But visibility isn't actually what's causing it, but it is the most tangible thing we do, which is why so often we feel like posting more or doing more or sending out another email is going to be the thing that just gets you to that next level. And it feels like a checkbox, right? Like you can do one more thing that gets you to the idea that you are making progress and gonna be getting those consistent clients. So what we're actually going to talk about in this next hour is what that gap actually lies in. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see. So before we get into that, I wanted to talk to you about who I am for those of you that I don't know. My name is Jordan Schramm. I am a marketing strategist, and marketing is literally in my DNA. My mom was a marketer, and I grew up in a house where we would talk about brand strategy, right? We would talk about why that billboard was in the location it was because it was trying to target a certain someone. Like my first song that I ever memorized was the Kit Kat ad. It's just how my brain works. And so I did what I was supposed to do. I graduated from college and I went into the workforce and I started that rat race, including 9 years at Walmart corporate, doing what I was supposed to do. You know, you work hard, you get promoted, you repeat. And that track for me was clear and I stayed on it until one day my mom got diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer. And I watched someone who had done everything right. She built the career, she saved for retirement, and that future disappeared overnight. And it made me ask a question that I genuinely had never asked myself. And it was, how do we want to spend an ideal day? It wasn't about a one-day retirement or a 5-year plan, but it was just, how do I want to spend Tuesday? And I didn't have an answer, which blew my mind because I had been following a blueprint that someone else had been handed to me. And I called it life, right? I was following the check boxes of life without actually asking myself how I wanted to spend my time. So I left. And what I've come to understand on the other side, working with small businesses, is that the same thing happens in business. Most people are building their marketing in the way that I built my corporate career, following the blueprint, doing what you're supposed to be doing. You post, you show up, and you go through the motions. And for most service businesses, that blueprint has one main chapter that gets you started, right? Get referrals, ask for the introduction, stay top of mind with the people who already know you. And referrals are great. I'm not knocking them, but when someone vouches for you, that trust shows up preloaded. You didn't have to earn it from scratch, which means that most of us never actually learned how to build that trust. And that is what this workshop is named after, what referrals never taught you. And it's the thing that makes a complete stranger connect with you and convert. And once your business figures it out, it's not about your niche or your credentials, but it's really about the lens that you bring to your space that no one else in your industry has, so you can talk to your client differently. So we're going to talk about that today. All right, I am going to pull up my whiteboard and we'll walk through this. So here's what actually happens with referrals. I'm going to draw this out for you. So we have, this is going to be you, and this is going to be person A who you already have a relationship, right? You have built trust with them. They know you and they like you. And so when person A talks to person B about the same need that they have that you solve, person A is going to tell them about you, right? And so the trust that A has in you is going to get transferred to person B. And so when person B comes to you, they show up to the conversation already having some trust in you, right? They're not vetting you from scratch, and they're not necessarily comparing you to as many other people because they already know that they trust person A trusts you. And so the sale is easier, right? You're not starting from who are you? They already have this preloaded testimonial of someone that they actually know that got results from you. And it's a great world to live in, but it works for referrals, and it's not the same when it comes to a cold audience. So when a cold audience happens, there's the same person that's looking for your service, and here you are. But in this case, you've also got a bunch of other people that look just like you. And so when they're looking for a service, they don't know who to go to. There's no preloaded trust that they have. When someone lands on your page, they are standing in front of you and these 4 other people who do the same thing as you, trying to figure out why should they choose you. So it's a completely different game than the referral business, right? And you're approaching it like the referral business, there's a gap here. Here's what's going to make it harder is when the marketing gurus and ChatGPT are telling us all the same information, right? They say, talk about your client's pain points. And they say, talk about their desires and their outcome and the transformation that you deliver. And so all of those inputs seemingly look the same because we're all using the chat GPT that tells it what to do. And so all these people are using the same kind of marketing and spitting it back to this person, right? And so that's, you've seen it when content starts feeling the same and you feel like it's generic and it's not really saying anything. And so when all of those people are saying the same things, you blend in. So that gets to the question of why are they choosing you, right? Because here's what that work doesn't take account for. This is the opportunity of not talking about better content or more content, but it's talking about the filter that you have lived that nobody else has, right? Because behind the scenes, you have experience of where you've been, the lessons you've learned, the life that you have led that add this filter of the way that you think about your industry, right? And when you add that filter on top of everything, on top of your marketing and your positioning of how you talk to your customers and how you show up, the stranger isn't going to see you as just another option. They're going to feel more connected with you because they understand where you're coming from, right? You're not just saying the right words, but it's coming from a place of truth and a place of storytelling that is different than all of these other people. So we're going to talk about finding this filter today and how you can add it onto your business. And this is the first thing I do with all my clients. We always talk about your lived experience because that is what is going to make you show up like no one else. So let's talk about this marketing framework because this is where most marketing advice lives, right? You are going to build your foundations. Someone probably told you along the lines that you should come up with a mission statement, right? You should figure out what your brand values are and who your ideal customer is, right? So we build the foundations of what our business is going to be. And then we come up with, our messaging. How are we going to bring it to life? How are we going to talk about it? And what offers are we going to show up in that bring those to life? And then lastly, we figure out our marketing tactics. So this is going to be the vehicles that you use to bring it to life and talk to people. So this is your social media. This is your website that you create. This is emails. This is how most marketing programs, coaches, this is the framework that they use, right? And here is the challenge with that. Your foundations can be solid, but it could still sound like everyone else's. Your messaging can hit every pain point, every transformation, and still feel generic to your customer. And their content can be produced perfectly. You can have everything hit to a T, but it still is not going to resonate with your customer because it's not using their words. It's not using your unique perspective on what they're doing in life. And so what all of this is doing is just adding more noise. And what it's missing is this underneath. This is the foundation that is going to make it yours. And here's the problem is that with AI, all of these things are going to start sounding the same, right? But the golden thread that you have underneath makes it unique. And so the golden thread is really about how you approach things differently. It is your perspective on life and why your industry thinking cannot be touched. And when it runs underneath your foundations and your messaging and your marketing, it doesn't just sound different to your ideal client, it's going to feel different, right? Because it is based in a reality of what you know, and it's going to add that lens that builds trust with your customers. Because right now we're in a trust recession, right? You've probably heard that advice that people are just taking longer to convert. They need to be in your world longer. And the way that we're going to build trust faster is through this golden thread. We're going to pull people into our world faster by showing them how we're different so that they will connect to us on that deeper level. And this is where most people skip because like we talked about earlier, when you feel that urge of wondering what else you can do, wondering what else you can add to find your customers and have them resonate, this is where we go. We just go back to tactics. We add more onto the funnel to make sure that we're in all of the touch points. But adding more of that content is not fixing this, right? So more content is not addressing the fact that we're not saying the right things to build that trust faster. So here's what we're going to do today. We are going to work on the first step of figuring out what your golden thread is so you can start implementing it in your marketing. So I want you to grab something to write with, open your notes app. We're going to do this together right now. So we're going to walk through a few questions together. And I don't want you to overthink these. Just start thinking about pulling out what's loose that's been sitting in your business this whole time without a name, because most of the clients that I work with, it exists and we might even know that it exists, but we are underselling it, right? We're not showing up uniquely. We're not telling people how it is impacting the way that we think. So first question is, where does your lens come from? What in your background or your career, what has happened in your life that shapes the way that you think? So I'll give you a few minutes to write this down and write it out. Don't edit it. It's not copy. We're just getting it out of paper. And sometimes it can be more than one thing, right? My lens came from 15 years working inside of corporate marketing, watching how big brands build trust at scale. And then losing my mom to a diagnosis that made me realize how many people spend their whole career building towards a future that isn't guaranteed, right? And so that combination of why I see marketing the way I do shapes how I help my clients, because I'm not just helping people build marketing to get more clients. I'm helping it build around a life that you want to live so that your business works for you, not the other way around. So that's my lens, and yours is somewhere in what you're writing down right now. So I'll give you a couple minutes. I would love if people feel comfortable to pop it in the chat, and we can kind of talk about how that comes to life in what you do. And if you want to include what you do as well to help us understand kind of your perspective, that would be great. But I'll stop talking and give you guys a couple minutes. Does anyone want to share? If not, I can give you an example of a couple of my clients I'm working with a photographer right now, and her background is in IT. And it was interesting when I first worked with her, she mentioned it off the cuff that she worked in IT, and it wasn't really a factor for her. It was just a chapter that she had visited in her past life. And what we talked about was actually most photographers are creative brains, right? And so their brains think very differently than someone with an IT background. And so what we talked about with her is how she sees and plans her photo shoots differently, right? When you have an IT brain, you're building the funnels behind the scenes. You're thinking about all the possible scenarios that could happen. And what is so interesting is having that background is how she also plans photo shoots, right? She is thinking about all the possible things that could go wrong. She does family photo shoots. So kids are constantly, doing whatever off the cuff thing. And so she's thinking about how to pivot in the moment and think strategically so that she's got everything planned beforehand. So it's that perspective, having a different career, that is going to shape how she sees photography differently than the other people in her industry. All right. That's okay. We can be shy today. We'll go on to step 2. Oh, there we go.
I posted it on
Thank you, Melissa. All right. I'm building an accounting firm with a life first approach. Purposeful life equals mission, purpose, goal. Different for everyone. My CFO advisory offers are based on their business and personal goals because both have to be aligned in order to have the life you want to have. Yes, I love this, Melissa, so much because it is bigger than just accounting, right? And I think especially in an accounting world where, no offense, it's boring and a lot of people don't want to do it, having that way to resonate with them on a deeper level is creating that lens in a different way. So really getting to the bolts underneath of what they want to talk about and want to aspire to do. So I love that lens, Melissa. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so we'll jump into the second question, which is a bit of a fill in a blank. And it's my business exists blank, so that blank. So the first blank is going to be what you do. And the second blank is where it gets real, right? And so a lot of this could be my business exists to help entrepreneurs make money, right? And the so that is really about the digging deeper and why you serve those people. Similar to like what you said, Melissa, about getting into having the life you want. Keep going with that so that it doesn't feel generic, but it feels like it's like you had mentioned in yours, you're getting to that deeper root of what is going to be true to them. All right, I'll give you a couple minutes to write down this. And one thing I love doing is you can keep going with the so that's. So if you've ever done like a why exercise, this is similar to that. And in getting to the root of what your clients actually want, right? So my business exists to help people market their business easier, right? So that they can make more money. And if I keep going deeper, it's so that they can live the life they want, right? So that they don't have to waste their time working their entire life to not enjoy what life should be about. So you can kind of keep going with this and get deeper and deeper to what that real need is or real desire for your clients becomes. And then question number 3 is your differentiation sentence. So using what you just wrote in step 1 and step 2, I want you to finish the sentence of the way you see your industry is different because. And this isn't just your niche. It's not just your background or your credentials, but this should really be rooted in what you wrote from step 1 and then sharpened by step 2. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but just a way that you see your industry different. And if anyone wants to drop it in the chat as well, I'd love to be able to talk about these live and work through them so we can get you guys some sharper differentiation.
Jordan, can you repeat? So is this, so how would I use it for my case, for example?
Yeah. So the way you see your industry is different. You could say, like, because you have a life first approach, right? That you are rooted in your mission and your goal. But how is it different than the other accounting firms? How do you approach it in a way that you can offer things differently? You see their whole self, you're serving people, trying to think. I'm trying to think, because you are, you're a military spouse, right?
Yes, I am. But it seems that it's going deep, that I would have to have a niche almost. It goes into the niche conversation. No?
Yeah, and you don't have to do. I'm not a niche proponent. I love, and this is kind of what I think about the golden thread as being different than a niche, because a niche does make you hone down into a specific audience, but a golden thread is the way that you see things differently. So another example is I've got a client that I've worked with that she owns a clothing boutique, and she was a college athlete, and so she was told her entire life she was supposed to dress a certain way, right? And she had this persona of being a certain way. So the way that she approaches her online boutique is different, because she is all about personal style and about finding who you are, not necessarily who you're told to be. So the way that you might differentiate yourself is, I'm trying to think of how we could weave in understanding the way that people's lifestyles might impact their accounting differently, and being a life first and goal. Maybe the way is that if you're thinking about their mission and their purpose, you are more centered on figuring out what the goals are beyond just, the making more money. Like, how can you be more life centric of what they want? And I don't know what that looks like in terms of what goals they might have that's different, but how can we be more purposeful? And do you do B2B or are you doing B2C? I forget.
B2B.
Okay. And so that's interesting too, is thinking about how you are approaching businesses differently that have a purpose, right? Because I would think a lot of B2B accounting firms are very transactional based. So how can you bring more humanity into a B2B business so that you're showing up more purposeful?
Yeah, I've been going through this type of exercises myself too. And I realized that there's a lot of people that, yes, they do focus on one industry, right? They go after one type of client, either certain amount of revenue or industry base. But in my case, I have a specific example with one client who is not at the $1 million range, for example, which would be my ideal client, between 1 to 7. But she has this, she values the expertise and she's willing to pay a little more. It's almost like she's already thinking at that she will become at the $1 million, So it's almost like I want to work with people like that who values and already, what is the word? I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's I'm looking at my notes because I made notes about this too.
Like the big ambitious dreams of.
Yes, like she's already like thinking like a $1 million business because she deep inside knows that she will get there, even though she's not there. She's willing to invest in it and create a foundation, right, to get there. So I can like I feel like I can work with them. So,
and
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that could be really strong positioning too of how you talk about yourself in getting people those foundations so that they can get to the next level, right? Like you are not just helping people once that they're there, but you're helping them on the path to get there. So it's like I hear a lot about, well, I guess there's the saying of dress for the job you want, not the job you have, right? Like you want to start the behaviors that you want now to make it happen, right? Someone gave me the advice, if you want to work 30 hours a week, then work 30 hours a week. You don't just wait until you have the business set to start working that way, but you have to start acting like it now so that it comes true. So that could be really powerful for you, is how you are different, because you're not just setting up for the success, but you're doing the foundational work to get them there, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a cool angle. And I'm trying to think of other words than like ambitious business owner, because that sounds very generic. But yeah, I think that there's something in there in terms of thinking about that purpose driven, right? Like it's bigger than just accounting. It's getting you somewhere so that you can, achieve your big wild dreams.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna look for some notes too, because I can use your help with this.
Yeah. Okay. So now that we've kind of started seeding this thread, I want to show you what we're going to do with it, because we're going to go back to this, and the missing piece underneath is really where we're going to start threading this needle, right? So once we have this golden thread, we start weaving it through your foundations so that you don't just have a generic mission statement that you wrote because someone told you to, and your ideal or your values and your ideal client are all going to be filtered through this lens now. So they actually feel like yours, and they feel super ownable and rooted in this truth of your lived experiences. And your messaging, it stops hitting the same pain points the way that everyone else in your space has, because it's coming from how you see what your ideal client struggles with and how you can help those struggles differently than everyone else. And your marketing stops feeling like a performance, right? It becomes the vehicle for your perspective. And that is where strangers are going to start feeling the connection for you. And here's why that matters, because remember this diagram where we have these strangers that are all standing in front of you, wondering what they are going to feel the connection. They have no one to vouch for them, right? So the golden thread is how you are going to make that connection without having that referral. You are inviting them into your world with your story, with your messaging, because it's built from your real lens, your story, the specific way that you see the industry, so that strangers stop comparing you to everyone else, right? And they decide that you are the one because they resonate with you. They build that trust with you on that deeper level, and you make them feel understood in a way that these 4 other people can't. And so it's not just marketing at that point, it is trust. And that is what gets people to convert faster. And that is the lever that this referral network never taught you, right? Because you didn't have to necessarily tell your story. You didn't have to talk about why you see the industry differently, because person A already did that for you, right? And so when you share your truth, people feel it differently, and people buy from people. They feel that connection and they will buy from you faster. And so that is what we are going to do in this next move. So I want to tell you the other thing that happens when you share your story is we all want more sales, but there's also the point of making marketing feel like it's not as hard, right? And so this is something that one of my clients told me after we found her golden thread. She hated marketing. She did not want to do it anymore. And she came to me and she said, Jordan, I'm showing up on LinkedIn. I'm showing up on Facebook. I'm posting on Instagram. I don't mind it, but it's just not me. And when we found her golden thread, when we unlocked what her story was, and how she could connect with her audience, she said she didn't feel burdened by marketing. She didn't hate it anymore. She wasn't just selling her services. She wasn't schlepping stuff, but she was sharing her perspective, and marketing became the vehicle to share that truth. And so here's what I want you to do this week. I want you to write one post, one social post or email that leads with your lens and your because and the reason that you see things differently. And so that is my go-to for you. And that is how you start weaving in this thread is don't overthink it. Just do one post this week that speaks to how you see the world differently, your industry differently, and how you are different than your competitors. So here's what I want you to understand about what we talked about today. Your golden thread isn't just another content pillar. I want you to think of it as the lens that will impact your entire business, right? And that's why I put offers on here, because it is impacting what you choose to serve your audience as well, right? It impacts your positioning, how you show up, why you choose you, and where you show up so that everything connects together. I work with so many multi-passionate entrepreneurs that feel like everything is everywhere and they have no idea how to talk to it. And when you have this thread that runs underneath, you're able to pivot, right? You're able to adapt and pull everything together cohesively because you have that core truth of who you are, what your lens is, and why you are showing up for your ideal client differently. And so when you have this, it no longer feels like that burden that you're pushing a boulder uphill trying to make things work because you are just selling your truth. And I'll tell you, I just got off a call with my client and she's deciding to change her whole business model. And the funny thing is we had worked on her golden thread and we looked at what her truth was and her golden thread. And we said, it doesn't matter what she's selling, right? Because her golden thread is still so true to her core identity and how she wants to help people that it can pivot to different things, right? She is no longer selling the category that she's in. She's going to pivot to a service business and everything is still true. And that is what happens when you have that core truth of who you are and how you can impact the world. I named my business Purple Sky because I believe in infinite possibilities, and my golden thread is to live life now. So I help my clients build a marketing plan that actually enables that. Not someday when your business is big enough, but now, so that marketing will stop feeling like you are on a hamster wheel that you can never get off. And so that sitting down to post doesn't feel like a chore. It is like sharing a glimpse into your world. And that's what I want for you as well. So I told you at the beginning of this that this wasn't a pitch. It's a workshop and I meant it. And if you want to work with me about building or your marketing around your golden thread and bring in consistent clients, you know where to find me. But today I am opening up 3 one-on-one strategy calls. So I'm going to drop this in the link. And this is really about taking what you have identified today, taking what you have started figuring out as your golden lens or your golden thread and weaving it into your actual business. How does that impact your positioning? How does it impact your messaging and your offers? And why does it become a reason that a stranger is going to choose you over anyone else? So grab a spot. This is my calendar link. And if today gave you enough to get moving, I really would love to see you write that post and share it with me so I can see it too, because I would love to see how this impacted you. And that is the whole ask for today. And so we've got a few more minutes. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself, drop it in the chat. I would love to talk to you guys. One thing, because I know at least one person is thinking this, I hear a lot that people don't think that their lens is unique enough. And one of the things that I challenge you on is if you feel like your story isn't unique, you're almost always overlooking something, right? It's always something that comes up deeper about why you see the world the way you do, because what you have lived in feels ordinary to you, right? And that's proximity blindness. And I say it all the time to my clients that you can't read the label while you are inside the jar. And so that is what this strategy call is for. It is helping you unlock what that golden thread is so that you can see how you bring a different perspective to your industry and differentiate yourself from your competitors. So that's all I have for today. Yeah, if no one has any questions, I will let you go. But just wanted to remind you that you started this business to give you the freedom of having a business and a life that is yours. And that thread that you pulled on today is just the beginning of it. So don't let it sit in your notes. Write the post, book the call if you want to go deeper. And I really appreciate you guys being here. This is what I love to do, and getting to do it live with you guys is extra special. So thank you all so much. And yeah, if you want to stay on, I'm free to take any questions, or find me and we'll chat afterwards.